Welcome back to OMG MotoGP, and we've got a bit of a man under pressure. He's relieved one lot of pressure from the Formula One Grand Prix and about to take on the next lot of pressure, which is MotoGP, of course, at the British Grand Prix. The Managing Director of Silverstone, Stuart Pringle. Welcome.
Hi, Keith. Morning.
I can see that straight away when we log in. I mean, there's always that sort of look of trepidation on the face of somebody like your good self that definitely has a task at hand. If I may say, first of all, congratulations for a fantastic Formula One Grand Prix. I don't suppose it could have gone any better than it actually did for you guys.
You got to love a British winner. I dare say we might get onto that in this chat. It's thank you. It was a big weekend. It's an important weekend for Silverstone. We've been running Formula One races for many years, as you know, and it's getting bigger every time. It's important to our year, and it's the very fabric of what Silverstone's all about. So we were pleased that it went well. British weather made it operationally quite challenging. Who'd organise outdoor events in the United Kingdom, but to have three very competitive Brits in the race and two of them on the podium was fantastic. So yeah, great weekend.
Well, let's dive straight into that, shall we? I mean, it was going to come later in the conversation, but it seems we lead off on that. Let's go for that. I mean, how important for the British Motorcycle Grand Prix is a presence in the MotoGP class itself?
It's massively important. It is in any sport. Any promoter in any sport will tell you that home heroes help attract interest and drive enthusiasm. And we only need to think back to sort of key dates that we all remember in motorcycle racing when Brits have been very competitive in championships. It makes a huge difference. Of course, we're here talking about MotoGP, but probably the ultimate example there is, of course, your old chum, Barry. But when you think about when World Superbikes was super high with Foggy and what an amazing atmosphere that created, having a Brit at the front of that World Championship. So we've had Brits who've done very well, but we do miss that in MotoGP at the moment, and we've never had anybody quite of the stature of the two guys I just mentioned. And there is a contrast when I look at it as a promoter of Formula One and MotoGP. There is a difference. We've got Brits doing really well in Formula One, and it makes that conversation easier. We need to try and find a way of supporting that, and I consider us to be absolutely a partner in trying to change things, and it's important for the country, so the national circuit must get behind it as well.
Well, you say the national circuit, of course, Silverstone holds a minimal amount of races, really, motorcycle wise. It is a quite a small part of the operation. Do you feel that? Do you have any conversations with, say, Jonathan Palmer, for instance? I mean, I think he's a member of the BRDC anyway. But do you ever have any conversations with MSVR's main man and look at any kind of collaboration and how you guys can get together to try and move that forward? We know that Dorna, through IRTA, assist in the funding of some riders and some teams when it comes to Britain. Michael Laverty's team, for instance, Jake Dixon was funded by IRTA. Go back in the days, other British riders have been funded. How do you see us moving that forward? Is it a collaboration between Silverstone and MSVR? Is it? Where do you see that jump, that change being made?
Well, we already work very closely with Jonathan's team through Stuart Higgs. Never mind all the sort of the technical support around running the race meeting. This year is a very good example of the super stock race that we have worked together to get onto the support bill, and trying to get some home interest. So we've got John McGuinness as a wild card in that, which absolutely will capture some headlines and get people talking, and it'll be exciting. So we work together in that respect. And yes, as it happens, Jonathan and I work very closely on a committee that exists in the UK for promoting the interest of British circuits. So absolutely, there's a very regular dialogue. But we have a superbike culture, don't we? The question is, how do we get people into the MotoGP ecosystem earlier, and is there more that we can do? What's going on with the governing body? Because we're the promoter, but the national governing bodies sit behind the rules and not just case making the rules, but actually have a responsibility for the health of the environment that they're responsible for. So talking to the ACU and working with them about how we can progress things, that's all part of the conversation. I think it needs all parties, Keith.
I do too. I absolutely understand what you're saying, and hopefully everyone will have some understanding regarding that. But at the end of the day, Stuart, it comes down to money. The problem is that a rider, you'll be familiar from the car background, that it costs quite a lot of money to get a drive. For instance, if you're the second driver, you tend to bring a load of money with you, or whatever that might be. And you're talking about £250,000, £300,000 nowadays just for a second rider to come into a team. These kind of funds just aren't available in motorcycling, and it doesn't seem like our sport is rich enough to really sustain that momentum of youngsters coming through. Very quickly, can you see that changing at all?
Well, I can see it changing with the change of ownership that is likely to occur with Dorna. If Liberty Media's acquisition is approved by the necessary regulatory authorities, then I think that there will be capital put into that business, and I think there will be we can look at the playbook as being broadly what they've done with Formula One, and that's very encouraging. They've done an amazing job at raising the profile, and the biggest problem with MotoGP in the UK at the moment is its lack of profile, its lack of visibility. I understand why a decision was made to take it off free-to-air television quite some time ago, and put it behind a paywall. But I realise that you've got an interest, or had an interest, and are frankly better informed than me on some of the nuances on this. But the production company and the broadcaster that have had MotoGP for the last few years have done a very good job at the content, terrific job at the content. The problem has been the visibility and getting it in front of enough eyeballs. And we're relatively new to paywalls as a concept in the UK still. It's only sort of 20, 25 years old. And there's a two-tier thing, and Sky has many more viewers than the others, and is on one of the others. I like what they do. I like working with them, but they're not getting it to enough people, and I want to try and help. We are working as organisations to see whether we can help. Encourage our database to take up subscriptions, but we need to get it out there more fully. And I know that not everybody gets their news from the print media these days, but frankly, motorcycle racing is pretty invisible in print media, and it's not particularly visible in generalist sport websites either. So somehow we got to try and get a change here, Keith.
Indeed. Let's talk about that in a local perspective, can we? We see quite often when Formula One and MotoGP are in some markets, we see big events like, riders and bikes are down in the town centre, revving up and driving around the local roads and all the rest of it. And it's a big PR thing locally. It's forgive me if I've missed it, but I've not seen any MotoGP bikes whizzing around the roundabouts of Milton Keynes in recent years to try and publicise massively in our local conurbations the kind of support you would expect from local authorities and local regions to Silverstone. I appreciate that Silverstone is a standalone track, gets no or very little help from the authorities generally as far as government help and the like many tracks do. But it seems to be a little, invisible locally. I live at Northampton. Milton Keynes is down the road. Very, very little in the way of marketing locally.
Well, it is there in the digital space, Keith, but you're probably not looking in the digital spaces that we're promoting this. We no longer nail flyers to lampposts or put bits of paper up around locally. We've been fully digital in our marketing for a number of years at Silverstone. It works for us in general, and we like it because it's measurable and you get feedback and data, and you can adjust your spend. I accept your point in perhaps in general terms that when you have that sort of atmosphere about it coming locally, that does perhaps sort of build some interest. But to be honest, it needs to be more targeted because of my point about motorcycle racing not having a general awareness. People are, if you put it, you talk to people about MotoGP, 8 out of 10 people on the Clapham Omnibus don't understand what that is. And that's why we need to talk to them in a more targeted manner. We need to work with manufacturers, which we do. We need to talk to their databases, which we do. We need to talk to our database. We need to find the crossover with the significant number of customers that we have who are Formula One customers. Because, let's face it, if you like your action on track, you're going to like MotoGP because it's more often than not naturally much more exciting than many car races. Not all car races, but many car races. And it's spectacular. It's visible. How practical is it for us to get a team to come over and run around roundabout to roundabout in Milton Keynes? Not sure. Could we try it? Yes, probably. Have we tried things like that before? Yes, they've been done in London. There've been various things that haven't been successful. Have they been as joined up between us and Dorna as they could have been? No, definitely not. Is there a willingness on Dorna's part to support? Yeah, up to a point. But actually, they're blooming busy now with the number of rounds they've got around the world. And actually, making time for this and being practical, it's not always straightforward. But yes, we need to keep working. Look, we're incentivized to work harder because we might make some money on the gate if we do.
Well, let me ask you about that. I mean, still, we've known each other for quite a long time now, and I kind of appreciate some of the pitfalls and the aggravation that you have to put up with when it comes to the motorcycle side of things. But I mean, how close is that relationship between Silverstone and Dorna? I mean, has it run its course? Is it a situation where good old Jonathan up the road at Donington Park, he's eyeing up like an old hawk in the hedge, waiting to drop down on MotoGP? And is there a situation here where the relationship is slightly tainted? And let me expand that out a little bit. You talk about digital marketing. Well, digitally, there's a sort of viral negativity nowadays towards Silverstone. Now, from a racing perspective, I don't get that. I mean, from everybody in the paddock and from a racer's perspective and from a team's perspective, Silverstone is the best. There is no doubt about that. A big, fast, wide, flowing racetrack with the facilities you've got there and the space to spread out and do what you need to do. There isn't a better racetrack in the UK. But from a perception point of view, it seems like the viral negativity that you get in some of these platforms regarding Silverstone seems to be almost tipping the balance negativity-wise against Silverstone. It seems like you're losing the battle in that platform for fans. Now, whether it's justified or not, only a fan can say whether they're getting the service they want for the money they're paying. I don't think we need to go there. Silverstone has a unique position of cost that not everybody's party to. So perhaps we don't need to go about car park costs and the like.
I think our tickets are very good value. We haven't put the prices up this year compared with last year, except on the 3-day ticket, which has gone up £5 from £110 to £115. I'm sorry, £115 for 3 days of MotoGP track action, including 3 excellent bits of music in evenings. Sigma on Friday, DJ set, the Kooks on Saturday, and the Darkness on Sunday, inclusive in that ticket price. It's exceptional. Yes, if you come on your motorcycle, if you come in your car, we do ask you to pay £20 to park for 3 days, or £15 on, sorry, £20 on Sunday and £30 for the weekend. But if you come on your motorcycle, it's free. The reason we ask you to pay for your parking in the cars is because we have to rent those fields in off farmers, and there's direct cost to us, and we are just we're passing that through. But what can you do for just over £100 for a weekend now? It's children under 11 are free, under 16 are half price. The people that are going on about Donington being a superior circuit. Look, I love Donington. Some of the race meetings I've been involved with that I'm most proud about have been at Donington in my pre-Silverstone days. But the facilities at Silverstone are significantly better. The viewing with the grandstands, we took the feedback on viewing and making grandstands available. We opened them up last year. The viewing is exceptional. If this were to go back to Donington Park, and if I've no idea. I mean, would Jonathan outbid us on the fee for this? I would be very, very surprised. But if he wanted to, I would be delighted. I wouldn't stand in the way. What I want is Britain to have the healthiest MotoGP meeting. That's what we all want. We're not Silverstone. You rather painted it as though Silverstone and MSV are in competition against each other. We're not. They can't put on a Formula One Grand Prix. They want us to have that in this country because it creates a trickle down and supports an ecosystem that's hugely important to this country. They could conceivably, although I'm not entirely sure about the Grade A FIM track license nowadays, but let's assume that they could get a track license at Donington to host modern MotoGP if it was felt by the commercial rights holder and them as a promoter that they could do a better job. Then that would be good for British motorcycle racing, wouldn't it? I just want
my concern is that we appear, on some respects. I mean, I think that I'm not pro Donington Park or pro Silverstone, exactly the same as you. It's about the sport. It's about our British Grand Prix. It's the most important race meeting of the year in the UK. It might be the most important race, of the year in the calendar as far as Europe is concerned. But the point being that there is that. Are we losing that battle of digital media? It's always the same, isn't it? 5% of the fans are the loudest, and 95% are quiet. Quite often, it's the loudest minority that seem to be creating that negativity. And
I don't honestly think they come, Keith. I don't think they're our customers. You look at, if you go across you choose whatever you like. The negativity in let's choose Formula One because it's close to home. Those people were not our customers. Because there were a few people saying, ticket prices are ridiculous. Well, the people that came and were our customers, to a T, said absolutely, it was fantastic value. They had a brilliant time. It was I was talking to our team about it, and one of our hardworking team in our customer service center on things like ticket prices said, "Look, I want a Louis Vuitton handbag, but I can't afford one. I don't walk into the shop and say, 'Can you reduce the price for me so I can have a Louis Vuitton handbag?' I've got a choice to make in my life. Do I sacrifice something else so I can get a Louis Vuitton handbag, or do I not get one?" And it doesn't matter whether it's politics, recent general election, this or that. There's a sea of negativity out there. It's the modern world. We have to just accept it. It's noise. Is it influencing people? No. I think if we are providing good value for those people that come, they will come back and they will bring a friend with them that didn't come last year. I'm committed to providing the best value that we can. You're right. This is an expensive circuit to open up, but to be honest, the prices that we're charging don't reflect those costs. We're pricing it at a point that we believe the market can take. Ultimately, that might impact our view on whether or not this is good business. Because, let's be clear: is sport business? Is business sport? This is a business that needs to make money. We try pretty successfully to try and lose money, and didn't really get us very far at Silverstone. I've had to work incredibly hard over the last decade. It's been my great privilege and honor to try and turn this venerable circuit around. And being dispassionate about it. It's not gone too badly so far. It's work in progress. But you've been at my side, Keith, on this ride, and the place is different to 8 years ago when I was made MD, and I'm proud about the difference that we've made. There will always be negativity out there. That I'm afraid is something that we have to live with in the modern world. We've got to do a better job at cutting through and showing people how good that is. And I do believe that if Liberty Media's acquisition is ultimately successful, which I sincerely hope it is, or frankly, if it isn't, and another party who is well capitalized comes in, because it's very clear that Dorna and their private equity partners are willing to sell at the right price. So if it isn't Liberty, it'll be somebody else. I doubt they're going to go back and just say, well, come on, let's do another long shift ourselves. Someone's going to come in funds, and they're going to look at the Liberty playbook, the Drive to Survive equivalent, which didn't go well when Dorna tried it on their own, and they are going to re-energize it, and they will get a grip of the social side of things, because it's not strong enough at the moment, and there needs to be more in that area.
You sound very positive, and I know you're passionate about bikes. Whatever anybody says, or any of the trolls get involved. My concern, as you know, for some time has been the fact that we've got an aging demographic that is our support base for motorcycling. Motorcycling in the UK is a very, very minority thing, and not many youngsters are coming through. How do you see that being made slightly more attractive, perhaps to a younger demographic? We talked recently about the museum there. I was talking about locally, one of my girls' schools were very keen to come and have a look at Silverstone, to come and see the show that is Silverstone. How do you attract that younger demographic? Through schools, through education, through...
Well, there's two things there. Absolutely, locally, we want to be somewhere that contributes to that becomes a leisure destination that people can come year round, and the museum is one part of that. We are going to be building a karting circuit. It will be capable of hosting international standard kart race meetings, because that's important to the car fraternity around here. But also we could put mini moto on it and that sort of thing. And I think that's something that I'm absolutely keen to explore, because we need to try and get people into that MotoGP ecosystem, and we need to start that as early as possible. But really, the question is back again to, what is the championship doing about its visibility? How is it promoting itself globally? How is it making itself cool? I mean, I had another conversation yesterday with somebody at something else I was doing at the weekend, where they said their 13-year-old daughter is absolutely batty about F1, and it's the cool thing amongst her year group at school because of Drive to Survive. I mean, that Drive to Survive is not just the most important thing that's happened in Formula One or motor racing or motorsport. It is the most important thing that's happened in sport in 40 years. It's spawned a load of copycat series, be that golf, tennis, particularly Tour de France has been brought to life with that, and we need that. So that how do we get younger people involved? The visibility of MotoGP needs to take a massive step up, and that is at a championship level. We, the promoter, and I know my opposite numbers in many of the other rounds. I'm in touch with many of them. We talk about it, and this is a problem that we feel the world over. There are some countries like the heartland of Spain and Italy, particularly for MotoGP, where things are just more natural, or Indonesia, where everybody rides some degree of two-wheel transport, and it's just in the culture. Society has shifted in the UK. It's been on the move since you were racing at this level, Keith, and it is different. And don't confuse increased two-wheel sales with more people getting into motorbikes. We're still feeling the after effects of people not wanting to get on the tube and commute into London on their commute into London, and they'd rather do it on a scooter. That's not the same as becoming a fan of motorcycle racing, although at least it does start to give some appreciation. So, it is about the championship visibility across all medium.
One of the things that I've noticed over the years, I mean, the Northwest 200 is an example to me. The Northwest 200 used to be this race at a weekend that we got paid quite large money to go and race around in Northern Ireland. And it became, over the years, a festival from the Tuesday onwards. It became a much bigger classic meeting. And I wonder whether Silverstone have ever considered, spreading out a little bit the events. Motorcyclists seem to like to go to an event and roll up and be part of something just a little bit larger than turning up at the weekend. You've got Cadwell Park Party in the park, which is spread out to a big event nowadays. I wonder whether Silverstone have ever considered something a little wider. I know we got the Day of Champions on Thursday, which is fantastic. I mean, I think sometimes that is a massively good value day, but obviously for the charity rather than for Silverstone, I'm sure it ends up costing you loads of money to put it on. But it is both morally, ethically, and every other way, it's a fantastic way to start the weekend. But I wonder if you'd ever considered a bigger event, maybe races on a Wednesday or something, mini moto races or evening races perhaps, or even BSB midweek perhaps.
Well, look, we brainstormed all of these things, and there comes a point where you have to make a decision about whether you're prepared to fund this long term, because this will take years to gain traction. I spent quite a lot of time down at the French Grand Prix, which I think is the exemplar of a private promoter doing something and really building something over time. He's done a great job to pack a lot of value into the ticket, and he's been really consistent in that. And he got that long established before there was French talent at the front of the MotoGP grid. It was just people coming because it was, it was a well delivered weekend. It's not actually quite as extreme as length time wise as you're suggesting. We look at. We were on August Bank Holiday weekend, and we were looking about doing. Could we do something more on the Monday and keep people on? Look, we're not against anything, and I think it's a good idea, Keith. But when I look at the economics of Silverstone, there are certain practicalities. There are obligations that we have to the championship about the amount of time they have to set up. They have to cable the track. They have to put advertising out. There are rather boring practical reasons why what you're saying or suggesting there, which I accept is just an idea and it's on top of your head and you're throwing it out there, and we must always do that. But actually, there are reasons. Your point is well made, though. Silverstone, are you really sure that you're thinking differently enough? Are you thinking diversely? Do you understand your audience? Look, any motorcyclist likes a road trip, don't they? They like a bike trip. They like to strap their kit on the back and go off and do something, and they want something to aim for. And are we activating that European market? Are we making ourselves a destination? No, not well enough. Do people think it's difficult? Do motorcyclists on the continent think it's difficult to come to the UK post-Brexit? Yeah, there is absolutely a belief that it is. It isn't. But we need to be better at that. Could we do more things with BSB? Well, I've explained that we're, the super stock race this year is a toe in the water, working more with Stuart Higgs and the team there. Could we do more? Yeah, I hope perhaps we can. But I accept your point, Keith. I think that, doing the same things that we have plateaued. You and I have discussed that the fact that the headcount at MotoGP has remained broadly static, certainly since Valentino Rossi's last one. Big spike. What's that, 3 years now? I think this will be the third year since he went. So, we need to try things differently, but there is a risk and reward balance there. And we have a very vibrant business renting our track out to all manner of different people, and we earn good money on Wednesdays in August or May or June or whatever date MotoGP lands on. That's another discussion point. Is August the right date? Not sure. Might we talk to Dorna about moving it? Yes, we might. So we have to take a balanced view. Interesting
that that there aren't any track days anymore at Silverstone for motorcycles at the moment. They sort of fell off the calendar last year. I mean, is that part of the economics of the circuit? You can only get so many hours of people out on the track, so motorcycles have kind of come away. I mean, track days aren't that important, I suppose, but again, it's whether they see it as a motorcycle track, if you like, overall.
Well, there's a very specific reason why we haven't done them this year, which relates to the filming of the Formula One film, the Brad Pitt film, and there was the Hollywood actors strike and writers strike meant that they lost a huge amount of filming time for that film last year, and having cancelled a lot of business in 2023 and told our long-standing clients that was a one-off. We then got asked whether the movie makers could come back and take big swathes of time again. Clearly, they had to have continuity. They had to be at the same venues, and we needed to help them. But we needed to find time for that filming, and we took the decision that we couldn't ask third-party clients to take the hit again, and we had to sacrifice bits of business that we had our own control over, which meant the number of car days that we had and the number of bike track days that we had direct control over. So that was a direct thing. As it happened, we have had a certain amount of success with our track days. But not as much as we'd like. I was chatting with a guy about it last week, actually, who I bumped into on the train. He was a long-standing bike customer of our bike track day, and he had exactly the same sort of sense about what we needed to do. We know what we want to do with those bike track days. We want people to come to Silverstone and have a really good, safe, quality experience. I was personally getting very concerned about the number of red flags that were coming out on some of the track days a few years ago. I didn't think it was a good experience, B, good value for money, or C, what either us as the circuit operator and legally responsible for the activity, or those taking part wanted to do from a safety point of view. So we've sought to build days which are less frenetic, better supported, with tuition, less numbers, and we want to refine that a little bit further because the economics weren't quite right. They weren't working. They were a bit expensive for the customers, but they weren't actually, making us as much money as we could do doing other days. No surprise for you, Keith, that people with Ferraris and Porsches pay more money for those days than we can make out of a bike track day. That is, but we want to have the broad appeal. I take your point that it's out of kilter if we don't have the two-wheel track access, but we're hosting the racing event. Then it doesn't help us. But, neither of them is feeding the other. But the numbers in both are still pretty low. And we need to get the visibility. We need to get more people riding bikes. We need people to understand that bikes are cool and bikes are fun, and bikes are as much fun as you can have with your clothes on. And we've got to get that message out there, and we've got to work together as an industry to build the visibility and the viability of the two-wheel world. Full stop.
I've spoken to you a few times about things at Silverstone and generally in motorcycling, and I get the impression this time around in this conversation, we've not spoken together for a few months, that you're just a little bit more under pressure, it would seem. You've come off the back of a massive weekend. You've got the MotoGP coming up at the moment, but the Stuart Pringle I know is very eloquent and very bubbly and so on. All the nice things that we want you to be, Stuart, enjoying your time as managing director. But on this occasion, I do get the feeling that there's just that fraction more pressure to make this year work for MotoGP. Do you feel the pressure? Do you feel that you're under pressure to get this better than it's been?
Keith, fundamentally, I don't feel under pressure at all because Silverstone is currently more successful than it's ever been, and everything we're doing at a strategically high level is the right thing for this circuit, and it's working. If what you've picked up is a frustration that we have still not yet found the magic bullet to make people realize what a brilliant weekend the British Motorcycle Grand Prix is, absolutely I'm frustrated because it is brilliant. I look at that £115 ticket value for the weekend that we put on, and I look at how exciting the racing is, how yes, Ducati are at the front for a second season, and we need sport needs jeopardy and sport needs uncertainty, and you don't want the same team winning. I was unfairly. It was unfairly suggested that I blamed Max Verstappen and Red Bull for making ticket sales to the Formula One British Grand Prix slate. I did nothing of the sort, as it happens, Keith. I simply said that when jeopardy goes out of sport, then and predictability sets in, then it's But how the headline writer extracted that? Look, I have nothing but the utmost respect for they're doing the best job and they're winning. But hey, what a great weekend we had at the British Grand Prix when we had uncertainty as to which of three teams is going to win it this year. And look at look what's just gone on for the last few races. But MotoGP serves that up essentially time and time again. You don't seem to get the same periods of domination. It is brilliant. So I don't feel under pressure because ultimately this thing will sort itself out one way or the other. And the big project that I set myself here is absolutely bang on track. But I am frustrated because I love bikes. I love strapping my kit to my bike and riding to other races and riding to this race. And I just want others to come and experience it. And I don't think, it's nailing flyers to telegraph poles around the place is the answer. But my strategy thus far has not yet paid off. And that is a source of frustration.
Well, there's one thing I can say, Stuart. I wish you well personally. All of us do. Silverstone is a great race meeting. There's no doubt about that. It is one of the ones of the year that we all want to attend. Racers and teams, as I said earlier on, all enjoy the racetrack and the environment that you guys obviously provide. We feel the frustration too, because the British Grand Prix is important. It's important to all of us to support the British Grand Prix. And we all wish you well in your endeavours to nail it down. I wonder if there's anything that we can do that would even help in Silverstone's endeavours to try and move that forward. I mean, is there anything that agencies and broadcasters and the like could do better, perhaps, for Silverstone?
Well, look, let's talk about all the positives here. We've fallen down a rabbit hole, Keith, where we're being a bit negative about this. I understand why your questions have led me to answer those ways where I've come across as negative, but I haven't actually stressed that we are Dorna's chosen venue for the 75th 75th year of the championship celebrations this year. That's really special. Why have they chosen Silverstone? Great race. And you more often than not get a cracking race at Silverstone because it's a fast track and there's a lot of slipstreaming and there's a lot of overtaking. The track really, really suits MotoGP bikes. It's eye-wateringly brave of the riders to tackle it in the way that they need to wring a good lap time out of it. So it's a simply spectacular thing. The bikes are going to look really different and cool this year with these retro liveries. The leathers are going to be they're coming out with all these historic inspired leather designs and things. So everything's going to be, it's going to be something feeling really, really fun and different about this. We got John McGuinness, as I said, in this super stock support race. Okay, so we like our superbikes a bit more in this country. From a racer's point of view, well, let's get those people out there. Let's get that race, and let's work with potentially to get a BSB round in. Let us not forget, when we're talking about the speed of the racing, let us not forget that we've had 9 different winners over the last 9 years at Silverstone. It is unpredictable, and that's how we like our sport. That's just what I've been labouring on. We've got the manufacturer support. If you come with your family, the kids, the under 11s are free and the under 16s are half price. We've got these fan stands, chance for people to sling a leg over the bike. We've got these fantastic bands, Kooks on Saturday, Darkness on Sunday. And the museum that you talked about, your daughter wanting to come to, well, that's free. If you're thinking about coming to the museum, come this weekend because it's free as well. So, there's a ton of good stuff out there. So actually, when you say, well, let's work together on this, what I would say is let's not extrapolate the negative headlines out of the bits where I've answered your questions honestly and given you a straight answer to a straight question, which, Keith, I've always tried to make my style. Not one for ducking these things. Life isn't straightforward with this meeting, but there's a ton of value, a ton of activities. It's there for all the family, and it's accessible. A third of the UK population can ride to Silverstone within 2 hours. Probably a lot less if you're on a bike. But let's talk about what you can do within the legal speed limit. So we are massively accessible. We're right in the middle of the country. 9 winners in the 9 last races. It's sport at its most varied and exciting.
And it all kicks off on Thursday with the Day of Champions, which is always a good way to start it if you're going to spend some time up at the track during the course of the weekend. I mean, Stuart, I'm please forgive me if I've come across slightly negative. I never intended to come across negative, and I actually wrote down here on my list in front of me to not harp on too much about the negativity of things, because obviously I'm a massive British supporter of the British Grand Prix.
Absolutely, you are.
And it kind of... the frustration point, I can really understand with that. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that relate to that as well. And kind of uneducated trolls sometimes I find very difficult. And I wish people would take the Julian Ryder way of thinking, in as much as you must verify any piece of information you read or hear about. And one of the things that interested me this week was, I think it was the Austrian Grand Prix. A chap was I haven't verified this, by the way, so fans that are watching this can check it for themselves. But he said it was £300 for the Austrian tickets for the weekend. Weekend tickets was £300 or something each, which puts it in somewhat perspective-wise. It makes Silverstone look quite cheap. It's difficult times for some people financially, of course, and that's always going to be a factor. But Silverstone, it's highly recommended. There's plenty to do up there. I always enjoy my time at Silverstone, and it starts on a Thursday. Stuart, I've got to say, we wish you the very, very best with this year. Fingers crossed for the weather, of course. That always.
Well, that's the great unknown, isn't it? Look, we sit here. If we end up with a scorching week, and actually the long range forecast looks all rightish. Don't get me started on what the long term implications of climate change are for the certainty outdoor events. And crikey, when it comes out of the sky nowadays, it seems to come out in vast volumes. But we all know, look, I'm a fair weather biker, hands up. If it's going to be lashing with rain, am I honestly going to pull a bike out and go, or am I going to hop in the car? Because I'm probably going to hop in the car. I understand that, but actually we'll get a pickup if the weather's good. We Brits are inclined to leave it reasonably late in the day. So I just urge people to look at the long-range forecast. Go for it. Generally, things improve is our experience of the doom and gloom weather forecasters. But yeah, I think it's good. I'm really excited about the weekend. I think this could be our best one yet. I'd urge people to come and enjoy it with us. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. Can't wait to see everybody, including you, Keith. Buy your annual pint.
Well, we look forward to comments on OMG MotoGP below, of course, and we'll add a few website links as well to that, so you can check up on Silverstone. I think it's to be informed is the key here as well. Sometimes digital media is a bit negative. Check out the actual facts, and you might be surprised if you've been following the wrong links or the wrong advice about Silverstone. Thank you very much, Stuart. Really appreciate you joining us today, and I'm sorry if we put you under a bit of pressure.
Not at all, Keith. Always a pleasure. Thanks very much for the chance.